Yeah, well, actually, because of how sparse our time is, and given the fact that we have you for a limited amount of time, I was thinking we could rearrange the agenda a little bit, jump into a little bit of the training, and then do the working groups, kind of assemble people once you're done into the working groups, distribute the email addresses, and then hopefully we can build from there.
Could you do your training in 30 minutes, and then we have 15 left for the working groups?
Yeah.
And I wanted to say something about TIA prep. You brought that up?
No, it's kind of
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. What my point was, and this is probably a discussion that needs to be held, is that if we all would dump our stock, then we don't have inside tickets. And like JVP, right, JVP has an organization, or they've organized enough that I got a call that said they're going to be where you are, go talk, here's your stock. And so that's good organization that we need to get in.
So there's going to be a workstation, and Ron with Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice, their group is working on TIA prep with all these, like Caterpillar, whatever, and that's what these working groups are for, to figure these things out, like how can we best go about working on this issue, getting them to divest and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry you're having to listen to me so much. Hopefully this will be helpful. Okay, so I promised you I'd tell you about the Veolia experience. Okay, so in Northern California in Sonoma County, a little group of artists and teachers and grandparents and students came together because they didn't want Veolia, this multinational corporation, to have a transportation contract in their local county. And so they brought this issue, Veolia was bidding on a contract, and they brought the issue to the Commission on Human Rights to make a decision about whether to recommend to the Board of Supervisors, which decides on contracts, to go ahead with Veolia or not. The most beautiful thing happened, and that is that they were allotted time at a local Commission on Human Rights meeting. Sorry, let me go ahead and say this. Basically, the Commission on Human Rights says, we'll make a decision on this, but we want to hear from the public. So one night, people from all around the county and surrounding areas converge on this Commission on Human Rights meeting, where they're making a decision about this corporation. And each person is given 60 seconds to speak. And one after another, people come up and they testify about why they don't want Veolia in their city. And they talk about their experiences in Palestine, and Palestinians talk about the Nakba, and mothers talk about what it means to them to see, women losing their babies at checkpoints. And one after another, people come testify. This little hearing on this Tuesday night in this little county forces Veolia to fly in 2 vice presidents across the country to testify on behalf of Veolia to make sure that Veolia wouldn't lose the contract. They brought 2 VIPs to the hearings. The Israeli Consul General of Israel in San Francisco comes up to testify. The JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Council, sends 50 people up to testify. They were so afraid of this little campaign to not get this dinky little transportation contract because they knew that it was so much bigger than that. They knew it was so much bigger. And on that night, the occupation went on trial. It was the occupation on trial, one person after another, people having to defend this corporation and the occupation, and it was really the 99% versus the 1%. And it was one of the most beautiful and touching moments of my life as an organizer. And I think it's an incredible manifestation of our power, of the 99% versus the 1%, of people versus corporations, are these corporate accountability campaigns in a public forum, including a city council or a board of supervisors or something like that. And so you can be looking out for corporate campaigns, whether it's Veolia and RTD or Caterpillar campaign, Caterpillar contract locally, or it could even be the Sister City Project, although that's not where it's at right now. But any forum where there's city council and there's an ability to bring these issues to the surface is an incredible, mobilizing, empowering educational experience. So anyway, so that's
what happened.
I was there.
What happened?
What happened? It's a long story. I wrote a whole article about it. In short, we won the public debate. We lost the vote. So what happened is, which is fine. Actually, is a segue to what I was going to going to say, which is fine. We after the two VPs come up, they give their slick PowerPoint presentation. They've been rehearsing it. They know all the talking points. The Israeli Consul General comes up. People come up talking about sob stories and how these BDS people are terrorists, and etc. And at the end, the Commission on Human Rights said, "God, it's terrible what's happening in Palestine. I'm not sure it's within our mandate to make a decision about that." That was the entire discussion. Is it in our mandate or not? So, okay, in the end they decided it wasn't in their mandate, but it didn't matter. Every person from Veolia in that room, everyone from the consulate knew who had won that debate. And so we won. And we consider it a victory, and it was incredible what happened to their group. Their group went from being small to more and more people wanting to join. The media, talked about it anyway. So this is a good segue. We talked about the three broader rights, and end to the occupation of all Arab lands. Thank you, Michael, for the correction. Equality for Palestinians in Israel, and right of return. Those are the sort of broad, big goals. What are some local goals that you might have in your BDS organizing here in Colorado?
Expand the base.
Expand the base. Yes, building.
Yes,
absolutely. And that is a very important goal, and that's a milestone to note. You don't only have to be reaching the, whatever it might be, ending the Veolia contract, but if you're building and you notice that's a great goal to set and to celebrate as it happens. Other goals?
Public education.
Education, yes, going hand in hand with that, absolutely. Mainstreaming the Palestinian cause. Let's see.
The view of the books that are taught for elementary and secondary schools, because the books they put about Palestine, is it Palestine or Israel? Is the old Israel continuing until today? And the history between, since old Israel today, doesn't exist in the books in the secondary school and the elementary school.
So maybe looking at the educational that people are receiving.
Yeah, the contents of the books.
Yes, great, and that maybe fits in with education and changing the discourse. Okay, other ones. Do you guys remember what? Well, let's get that one quickly.
They mentioned education, but you mentioned something with the Veolia hitting the media.
Yeah.
The media is huge.
Yes.
I think that's a major goal of any of these small grassroots that sit in the media and spreads like airwaves.
Yes, absolutely. Another one.
So I'm a student at the Iowa School of Theology, and so I tend to work within theological groups.
Yes.
So one of my own goals within the student organization that I have there is to really encourage deeper theological reflection on the issue, why does Christian Zionism exist, the history of that, and then how we reflect on scripture and on biblical teachings in comparison with that.
Yes. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to mention two more. Well, one of them's obvious, right? If you're trying to end a Veolia contract, one of your goals is end the contract, or de-shelving of such and such. So that's the obvious one, and that's the one everyone thinks of. And we're kind of exploring the ones that are as important many times, maybe even more important, building the movement. The fourth one that I have written down. Remember what I said? Forced MSCI to take Caterpillar off the socially responsible investment list. What was it? Was it that MSCI, Morgan Stanley, Capital International, said, "Oh, I'm so worried about the Palestinians"?
No. Controversy.
What forced them to take it off?
Controversy.
It's not because they care about Palestinians. It's because Wall Street doesn't like taking chances. And this was becoming a burden, and this was controversial. And what's so exciting is, again, who created that controversy? We did. We did. This is our power. And controversy is, in and of itself, an important goal, because the more controversy that we create, the more likely successes will happen, like the TIA platform with MSCI. And also, the more people start to learn, the more the movement builds, the more it becomes impossible for people to not want to get involved and to not take a side. The more controversy there is, the more people have to learn and start seeing where they fit in with it. So anyway, we're the key, and controversy is a part of that. So what's happening with BDS, one of the great things about it is that people, traditionally there were a lot of, speaking engagements, and I say as someone who spent 5 years of my life going around and speaking on this issue, a lot of speaking engagements and film screenings and vigils, etc. But these are tools. These are tools. And what's happening now is with BDS, people are not necessarily thinking in terms of events, but in terms of campaigns. Campaigns that have a target, that have specific goals, where we know what success looks like. and we have that defined, and we think about how we're going to get to that success. So so one of the things about BDS is I would encourage you to think about particular campaigns, what your goals are, including the different kinds of goals we've just talked about. And that sort of vigils and educational events, etc., are tactics and tools that should flow from your campaign goals, that should fit into your theory of how you're going to achieve your goals. And that's, maybe that sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It could be something as simple as, when you have, it's kind of like what Guy was saying about the film festival, right? That the film festival is a tool to achieve a certain goal. And if the film festival channels people into a particular campaign, and everybody who goes to that film festival is told and mobilized to do something, when you have all of these educational events, do people know who come to them? Do people know what they can do, how they can fit into making an impact? And that's one of the things that that BDS can hopefully help you do if you're not doing it already, is making sure that people know what they can do as they attend these things. I know what I was going to do is I was going to show this thing. We somehow it was mixed up without the image, so I'm going to show you here, and it'll be just as good. Great. Okay, so, oops. Okay, so I wanted to show you this campaign build. This is not the right one. So I want to just let you look at this for a minute. It's probably hard to see. I can send you this as an attachment if you signed up on this sheet, and I'll read these things to you, so don't fret if you can't read them. But basically, it's a nice sort of visual showing the way that campaigns build. And you'll notice that under sort of the first one is preparation or organizing. And that's where you have building up your group. That's where you have coalition building. It's not a tag on at the end once you have your campaign, but it's at the beginning, that sense of inclusivity, bringing people in from the very starting, especially Palestinian voices and communities. And that's where you would fit in your clear mission, your goals, your principles, your anti-oppression framework, which you guys are already doing in the sense of your mission statement and hopefully other conversations as well. Choosing your campaign, so I want to talk about that a bit. Research. We oftentimes we hear about some sexy campaign and so we want to do that. You want to research and find what builds the best sort of connection to your community. And I'm going to go through some of sort of the ways that you might choose your particular target. And I want you to note as we're doing this that it's not about having a long list of these are all the different products that you cannot buy, or these are all the different companies, or these are do 10 campaigns at once. But you want to focus. You want to focus. Like a lot of times people are asking me for that list of all the different things that all the different settlement products that they themselves cannot buy. But that's really about you. That's about them to not want to buy them, because it doesn't. Because BDS is not an individual thing. We don't have an impact doing something by ourselves unless we make a really big deal out of it. And that's what we do. I think it's very strategic to focus on a particular target and make a huge fuss about it. And it's not that we don't also consider these other things wrong, but what's strategic is for us all to focus our efforts on one or two or whatever works for the coalition, but ideally a small number of targets, and to make a big deal out of them. And that's the way, historically in the anti-apartheid movement, you didn't have a laundry list. You had certain companies that were associated with apartheid that made that connection from international to local, and that's what helped build the movement. Okay, so what are some criteria? What are some criteria by which you might choose which targets you want to? Let's see here. I guess I'll do it here. Oops. Some criteria by which you might pick the campaign that you want to focus on. And is this totally late? Have all the decisions been made about which targets are going to be chosen, or is this a useful exercise?
That's what we're doing today.
Yeah, and so you're going to condense it.
You're going to condense it.
You're okay.
Okay, good. So what are some? These don't have to be criteria that every single one meets, but these are some considerations. Let's say, what are some things what are some criteria that you might use for picking a target?
Is the attainable?
Okay, yeah, is it winnable? What was the other one?
Newsworthiness.
Newsworthy, yeah. Does it Yeah, does it bring that visibility? Others?
Legal.
Legal? All right.
Relevance?
Relevance? Tell me more.
Well, relevance to people in our community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Does it resonate with them? Does it feel local? Remember that whole idea that a company is a way of really telling it's a tool for telling a story and for building that connection. And if people don't feel that connection and feel that it resonates with them, absolutely. Yeah, other criteria. Yeah.
Probably the simpler the better, a simple issue.
Okay, yeah. Tell me more about what you mean.
Something easy to explain.
Yeah, okay.
Caterpillar built the bulldozers that knock down the houses. You know, I mean, that's a pretty simple one.
Kill Rachel
Absolutely. Kill Rachel Corey, and that's again that kind of fits into relevance, is sort of what will feel important to people.
Or like
what will
simple since
resonate
you're
with
breaking
them.
it down to the smallest component part, you don't have like one campaign that has all these different parts to it. You just want like kind of one thing at a time.
Yes, yes, great. Fits into simple, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
Great. Other criteria.
If the rest of the world is working on it, the rest of the BDS movement,
Yeah.
because then it makes it stronger.
Yeah. Let's see. Local as part of national or even international. Yeah, because you do it locally. Your win has to be local. You don't want to. You want to make it so you have real local wins to look forward to, but if it can be tapped into an international campaign, that is all the more powerful. Absolutely. What are other criteria? What are other things that might make a target a good one? Yeah.
Like who in the community benefits the most from it?
Tell me more.
Like if we're like paying into it and we receive some sort of dividend.
Yes.
Like
So
within capitalism.
yes. Shall I say like involvement? What would you say?
Yeah.
That works? Okay. Yeah, or it kind of fits in with relevant. Yeah, where the people are connected to it somehow, especially
like that ending military support because it's our money.
It is our money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are all ways also of making it relevant and connected. Other criteria people might use.
Emotional appeal.
Emotional appeal. Others?
Capabilities, making sure we have the capability of pulling off this thing.
Yeah, winnable
Oh, okay.
capacity or capability. Yeah. Others? I can add some of my own. Some of these, they all kind of, I think you caught most of them. I was going to say something that people know about, like we've had trouble with the Ahava campaign. Because people don't know Ahava, as we learned earlier. That is not a product people know. SodaStream, on the other hand, is more and more known, so people are finding that to be easier because people know what you're talking about when you say SodaStream. Educational, does it help to tell the story? Does it help to tell the story? Does it give a space for telling that story? Let's see. Does it build a local movement, like somebody was mentioning? Yeah, I think that's basically. Oh, I know another one I had mentioned before. Fun and creative. Is it something that is conducive to community building? We're having trouble with the TIA Rep campaign because people don't seem to find retirement funds as sexy as bubbles and SodaStream. And so really think about that. And you can. I think if you're savvy, you can make everything fun. But you might look at what people what might attract young people, for example, or what might attract. How about this? What might attract other struggles? Might that be a consideration? So how might I phrase that?
Finding the commonality.
Yeah. So common,
Unifying.
Partners.
Attraction.
Intersectionality. Okay. Yeah, I like that intersectionality. With other struggles. So can you guys think while we're on that topic? Can you think of any corporations that might create that overlap? I'll give you an example. G4S. I mentioned it before. It works with prisons in Israel, Palestine, and it also is part of the prison industrial complex in the U.S. That's a good one. Elbit and Caterpillar are building the wall on the U.S.-Mexico border and the wall in Palestine. These are natural. These are sections. Veolia is another one. Raytheon. I don't know enough about it, but I believe it.
Raytheon has built weapons for Israel, but they certainly build weapons for U.S. militarism as well.
Great, yes. Perfect.
And they're right here, Raytheon's in Colorado.
Perfect example. Okay, great. So what are, might this be a good time to ask sort of what are some possible local targets, or is that not, I don't know.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good, okay. So, doing what I can work with here in terms of space. All right, so what are some possible targets you guys are, by the way, we're not going to all decide on one, there's not enough time to do that. But I hope that the criteria you can be thinking about, and maybe this will actually prompt some in the discussion period, things to look at. Yeah.
You mentioned choosing one. One of the things that we were thinking about as we planned this was that there might be several groups that would work on different things. Do you have any thoughts about splitting up our energies or versus focusing on one?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you would know better than me, than I would. You know, my instinct is, you know, we're more powerful united, but then I also think we have different skill sets and interest levels, and there may be some that for whom one particular target resonates more, people are more excited about it. So I would say maybe something in the middle, like, you know, have enough options. By enough, I mean like maybe 3 tops, I don't mean like 10, to draw different audiences and excitement levels, but wherever possible, how about that? My humble recommendation would be wherever possible to focus together on one campaign. And in our local community in St. Louis, we had decided to do a SodaStream campaign. And then the Veolia thing came up and we said, you know what, we just can't divide our efforts. We're going to put this on hold. We're still excited about it, and we're going to do Veolia together. And when that's over, we're going to go back to that. And I think that's okay. And I think it's actually a show of solidarity to the other groups to be able to do that. Oberlin SJP, actually, this is an even better example. Oberlin SJP, there's this horrible racist incident with the Klan, I think, at Oberlin College recently. And the SJP was about to put forth the divestment resolution. And they said, you know what, we're not going to do it. We're going to stand in solidarity with these communities that are fighting racism because we stand for that. And lo and behold, they decided to do that, not expecting anything in return. But once they did that, they built coalitions, and now they're going to do it at the right time. So it's okay to put things on hold and to work together. I think it pays off in the end, also. Not to mention being a good thing to do, whether or not you benefit. Yeah.
I think one of the things that the people that we were talking about is that there's some groups that are already working on things, so we were just going to capitalize on that strength, on that research on what they've done. And it is, I think that we have maybe 5 things or 4 things.
You guys have a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I tend to agree with you more that if we focus all our attention on a couple things.
Yeah, but it's easier said than done. You know, like if you invested in a campaign, like I understand the desire to continue it. So, you know, this is something you guys have to decide for yourselves. But generally speaking, I would say there's a strong advantage wherever possible to work together. Can we get back to possible targets? So,
well, we also have the geographic thing here, the Denver Boulder things too. So that might be something to think about.
Yeah. So maybe like splitting up on geographic. Yeah. Other possible targets, or maybe Veolia, yeah. So, yeah. I can do a whole talk on Veolia. What you have to do is, remember I talked about the research, so when is the Veolia contract up for renewal, for example? And the cool thing about Veolia, by the way, is if you have a contract up for renewal, you try to stop it. If you don't have a contract up for renewal, you try to get the city council to pass a resolution to say that you are a Veolia-free city. You preempt it. You can do the same with Caterpillar or any other corporations. This kind of creative ways, because one restriction is that it has to be the right time. But Veolia would be awesome. And I have.
She says you have connections here.
Yeah. Sabra, yeah. Back there, did someone raise their hand? Yes.
Walmart? Yeah.
All right, and Walmart, tell me more about Walmart in Palestine. It's a great target by itself, but I didn't know if there was a connection there. There are possible targets?
Ahava and the other, there are other companies that are using Dead Sea salts now.
Yeah.
I mean, I found some at Whole Foods, there is another one, in the mall, kiosks, and they're all different companies.
Oh, great.
So are they all, I mean, are they necessarily all, that is, they are stealing that resource?
I couldn't
You don't
say,
know
we'd
for
have to do the
sure?
research.
Okay.
But in the context of narrowing down, this might be an example of like, maybe we don't need to look into a future one there, you might want to, but I don't know what the answer is. I bet some of them are and aren't. I want to focus on other possible campaigns or campaigns that have come up, BDS specific.
Yeah, the White Chocolate Factory.
Sorry?
The White Chocolate Factory.
White Chocolate Factory. I don't know about it.
Yeah, they have a restaurant in, out of Denver.
The White
Denver?
Chocolate Grill?
And is it,
Are you talking about Cheesecake Factory?
White Chocolate.
White Chocolate Grill?
oh, great. Okay,
They have Israeli,
Yes, white chocolate grill.
White Chocolate Grill.
okay.
Oh, white now?
So I'm gonna, just because we have to move on. Are there any other, here, yes?
The thing that the Coalition of Immokalee Workers did is they looked at chains that did business with product lines that weren't respecting the tomato pickers. So, there was first, oh God, what was the first one? Taco Bell, and then Burger King, and then finally Whole Foods, and they're still working on Kroger.
And Publix in Florida.
Yeah, so vis-a-vis Ahava or fruit and vegetable growers, you could do a similar sort of thing with grocery chains. That could be local.
Okay, and actually something is coming up here, and that's that usually you have two targets. You have the corporation or the company, and then you have the decision maker. So it might be SodaStream, but you're really trying to convince Bed Bath & Beyond to do something. So that can get a little confusing, apples and oranges. Okay, we have to move on because I'm supposed to end in 7 minutes, and I think I want to end in even less to give more time. Okay, so I'll say real quick, how many of you guys know what SMART goals are? Great. So SMART. So this is about goal setting now. Do you remember what they are?
I can start.
Okay.
It's specific, right?
Great.
Measurable, attainable. What's R?
I think it was achievable or attainable, it's the same.
Realistic.
Yep.
And then trackable, right?
Yeah. And then what's the last one?
Trackable.
Trackable? Oh, I had time sensitive.
Okay.
But whatever, we'll do both. They're both important. So they say. So as you're putting together your goals, you might find this acronym helpful. A lot of times we set goals like build a movement, or and that can be a sort of broader goal. But as we're setting milestones to reach along our way, it's usually useful to have something more specific, something more measurable and achievable, and knowing when we reach it. And when we're setting goals, I think a lot of times we set kind of the holy grail goal. We said, let's say, what would it be? Let's say get Costco. We're like, oh, how about this? Get Costco to stop shelving SodaStream. And then we're working on it for 2 years, and you're like, oh, we're getting nowhere. And we forget that we've, had 20 articles in mainstream publications, and people, our community, our organizations have doubled in size, and we have X number of petition signatures, which is a base we can then mobilize, and there's all different kinds of goals. And so as you're setting goals, it's really good to to set sort of different grades of goals and to celebrate milestones along the way. This gets to the issue of sustainability, of the group feeling, seeing the progress that is being made. And so what we see here is the sort of prepare, which we've talked about in terms of organizing your group, setting goals, picking a target, researching, mapping out, building. We talked about that a bit with coalition building, about developing leadership, outreach to potential allies, educational events. And then here we see this sort of cycle of escalating nonviolent action. And I'm going to read them. Here we have approach the target for negotiation. Here we have pressure the target and build the base, petitions, educational events, media. And then we have confront the target, non-cooperation and direct action. And then you between each one is about evaluating leverage. And then you go back and you reapproach. And this is a natural sort of cycle that I find useful. I like this map. And what you got to be careful about is that you don't start here. We forget to do the soft ask. Instead of going to the place and saying, we'd like you to please detail SodaStream, we do a flash mob. Because we're like really excited to do a flash mob, and we can't imagine doing it. So this is, I know it's funny, but like, it gets to that sort of that obsession, but I mean, not obsession, but we love it. We love to confront power. We'll be happy about that. Yeah, back there.
Is there anything you can blow that up a bit?
Good idea. Can you do it on screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what was I going to say? Oh, and then the last one is sustain, fundraise, media, connect local wins to national and future goals. And I would add in there celebrating milestones. And so anyway, you see the way that these all sort of fit into different categories. And I just want to point out especially the petitions, the educational events, media. You see the way that they fit into this flow. You've approached your target. They haven't responded, you escalate. You escalate, and they haven't responded, you escalate even more. And then by the time you reapproach the target, it'll be different. Maybe they'll be more pissed, maybe they'll be more amenable, but this is the way it fits in. It's not sort of educational events willy-nilly for the sake of it, or not that has no value, but it's nice if it fits into something broader. Okay, I'm going to step away. We didn't talk about tactics, about demonstrations, culture jamming, flash mobs, but I think that stuff is actually easier and more popular. So I will just say again that the U.S. campaign is here to support you. And we have the ability to do things like action alerts across a broad breadth of Colorado and your local areas, petitions. We can do mentoring and supporting, and just please keep us posted on what you're doing so that we can promote it. And we have resources, and we'd love for you to be a model for other organizations. If you guys are keeping a journal as you build this coalition, we could show that to other groups and maybe inspire them to do so too.
So the initial plan was to kind of break off into working groups and kind of get started, but we've run a lot further behind than anticipated.
What did you decide about that?
I think so.